Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. Thank you for listening. We would like to remind you that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Known as just a silly boy with a feely heart. Please consider supporting the show. Check us out on Patreon or simply leave a review on iTunes. Here's your host and creator of the show, Known Wells.
Hello, feely humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells, and this is episode 114 on Hope for the Day and Preventing Suicide with Mike Vinopal. Mike is education lead at the suicide awareness, suicide prevention organization, Hope for the Day. Just a wonderful organization that I have a lot of fondness for, and I really had a lot of fondness for this conversation. Mike is a really great guy, and really loved listening to his story. We talk about bipolar disorder. We talk about how mental illness stigma silences individuals and communities. We talk about the time Mike was hospitalized and suppressing emotions, and just the amazing work that Hope for the Day is bringing to feely humans throughout the world. If you go to, just search for Hope for the Day, or go to hftd.org, hftd.org. You can learn more about Hope for the Day. Okay, but before we get to the episode, I just wanted to say a few things. First of all, thank you to everyone for the just kindness and love shared on Instagram. This weekend, actually, as of this recording, I've had a dark month. My depression has been pretty bad, and I've dipped down into some suicidal ideation and self-harm thoughts again, and it's not fun, and it's been pretty shitty at times, but the truth is that you feely humans are so supportive and heart-leading and warm and lovely and kind, and it's just so validating. It's so, thank you for being a mirror for me. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for your love. It's truly a wonderful thing, and it just reminds me that I'm doing the right work in You, Me, Empathy, that I'm doing the right work in launching the Feely Human Collective. We're creating these warm, safe spaces to share and to connect with one another and to grow with one another, and that's what it's all about. And so I just wanted to thank you for that. It's truly wonderful, and I will be okay. I've been here before, and truly, I have the tools to get through it. And if I hadn't, gone through therapy and really done introspective, curious, sort of emotional wayfinding and learning to be vulnerable and sharing my story and developing emotional intelligence, these types of dips in my depression would not be the same. They truly would not be. They would be much, much worse. And I don't know if I would, I might, this is dramatic, but I might even, act on those impulses. And so, I'm so grateful for the work I've done, and there's always work to be done, of course. But, that truly is, what the Feely Human Collective is all about. It's developing emotional intelligence in all of us, and to allow us to really do the beautiful work of looking inward. That's the best thing ever, truly. Even though, certain people don't see it that way, that's okay. It's not for them. And, we're about empathy. We're about vulnerability. We're about leading with our hearts. So, I guess on that note, Indiegogo campaign is still going. There's just a little less than a month to go. We're at 24% of our goal, almost $5,000 raised, which is amazing, which is great. I would love to get to 50% of the goal. That is my goal at this point. That would be amazing. So if you haven't contributed financially, please do. Unless it's, of course, a burden on you. I don't want you to do that. But please share. Please continue sharing about it. Please talk about it. And thank you. And also, I wanted to shout out a couple of people. My friend Jen, who is learning to be a death doula, which is amazing. She reached out and offered up some pro bono sort of assistance with Feel Human and so I'm working up a list of things. And then so thank you, Jen. And then Alexis, who I had a chat with. Alexis, I don't know. I've actually met Jen in person and we're friends, but Alexis, I don't know. She was a total stranger. She reached out via Instagram at Feel Human, and she wanted to know more about the Feel Human Collective. And so we had a phone call. I explained a bit more what it's about, and we just connected, and we empathized with one another, and we related. And she even offered up some of her help too. So Jen and Alexis, I am working on a list of some things that I will need help with in the next month or two. So thank you. That's so beautiful. And I bring that up so to say that, like, if you also are someone who has time and energy and want to contribute to the Feel Human Collective in a way that's, maybe not donating financially, if you can't do that, let me know. Just DM me on Instagram at Feel Human. Okay. Thank you. By the way, the link for the Indiegogo is feelyhumans.co, or you just go to feelyhuman.co and you can find it there as well. Thank you. And make sure to subscribe and rate You Me Empathy in iTunes. That truly does help out the show. It bumps us up in the algorithm. And so I'd love to see more reviews. I'd like to read them here in intros. So please rate and review You Me Empathy in Apple Podcasts /iTunes. And thank you for that in advance. And thank you for being a Feel Human. You truly are wonderful. And okay, let's get to it. This is episode 114 with my guest, Mike Vinopal. Oh my gosh, I screwed that up. Mike Vinopal. I like to say Vinopal in a way because it's like a friend to wine. Mike Vinopal, you are the best. We're talking about hope for the day and preventing suicide. Enjoy.
La la la, you, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You Me Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You Me Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight, so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You Me Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I have hope for today because I'm sharing space with musician, suicide awareness advocate, and hope for the day education leader, Mike Vinopal.
Hey, how's it going?
Did I screw up the last name again?
No, that was good.
I did it.
Great. You did awesome.
I had a pause there for a second because I went all up in my head, my anxiety brain, and we just went over this before we started recording.
Okay. Vinopal's perfect. You nailed it. You stuck the landing.
Yes, thank you.
And people sometimes stumble on hope for the day as well. Like they'll be like hope for a day, and I'm like, no, it's hope for the day. But you nailed that too. You like But I could tell you're like, oh shit, am I going to say it right?
Well, thank you for being here, Mike.
I'm so happy to be on your show, man.
Good, good. Well, before we get into your story, let's just do an emotional check-in. How are you feeling?
Today I feel pretty good. Like some days your day starts off like you don't, you're not feeling great. You're sad or frustrated or mad, and you don't really know why. Well, in my case, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And this morning wasn't one of those days. I woke up, I was like, all right, I got something cool to do today, and I put on a bright shirt, and it's sunny. And then I'm like busting out the door because I'm running late, and I knock the table right by the door and knock this cactus off, a potted cactus right off the table, dumps directly into our cat Luna, her litter box. And I'm like, really, right now? Like, seriously, universe? And I felt my little fire demon, rage up my spine, and I really wanted to like break something or, be loud and angry. But I don't know. I was kind of proud of myself because I didn't. I was like, chill, fire demon. Well, this is almost ridiculous and silly. Why don't we just chuckle softly to ourselves, and we'll change the litter box later when we got time this afternoon. So I walked out into the sunshine, got in my car, turned on some tunes, Sly and the Family Stone, cranked it up, and kind of got my head right, and was feeling good.
That's great.
Still feeling good. So yeah,
that's a beautiful pivot you did. I mean, I that's hard to do.
It's hard to do for sure. And some days I am unsuccessful. And,
sure. Yeah.
Curl up in a ball on the couch and binge some Netflix. But that, self-care is fluid.
It is. And mental health is as well. It's all kind of messy and non-linear.
Strikes and gutters, man. Yeah. Peaks and valleys. All that.
Ebbs and flows.
And, I live with bipolar. I didn't get diagnosed until I was like 31. But like in learning about the disorder and going to therapy and working a plan to heal what I could heal and manage what I can manage, has been interesting because like I was like, oh yeah, I've had this my whole life, but I just didn't know what it was, So when you talk about the ups and downs and the good days and the bad days, I'm extremely familiar with both the good and the bad.
Yeah,
the super highs and the super lows.
100%. I relate to that, and I just wanted to commend you for first naming your thing as Fire Demon, because I think that's adorable. But also just kind of recognizing it and say, hey, you know what? Not today, motherfucker, or whatever. I think that's great
for sure.
Yeah. I had a similar experience actually recently where I was playing. I have a tendency, Mike, so my sort of coping mechanism growing up was to kind of just shut down emotionally. I had a pretty violent, terrifying father, and so my sort of survival mechanism was to shut down. And that mechanism, once I kind of left the house, became something that I had to figure out, and it sort of hurt me before it helped me again. Anyways, so I do have a tendency every once in a while to shut down. And so the other day I was playing sand volleyball with my wife and some friends, and I got some like very gentle, like, here, do this thing, and my sort of super sensitive, scared of any sort of like criticism or sort of face-to-face self was like, shut down. Am I going to get through this game? Am I just going to shut down emotionally but I didn't. I recognized that was what I was doing, and then I was able to kind of get past it and play the game and kind of get over it, which was great.
That's beautiful. I mean, like, so often people's like knee-jerk advice is get over it, which doesn't really work coming outwardly.
Sure,
but
totally.
It sometimes works like when you're able to do it for yourself. Like once you kind of start to learn about whatever it is you're dealing with, like, because we're all kind of got our own individual perceptual, experience that can only be really experienced by us. We can only be subjective. We're like
Yeah.
prisoners, right?
100%.
So you can try and communicate out your internal experience, and people can try to relate and might even, have similar gauges on their own perception, but it's never really like anybody can really feel what you're feeling. But
Right.
that's why it's important to talk about it and like share that volleyball experience where, like, in my head, I'm like picturing the ocean and like all sorts of smiles and good feels. And then as you elaborated, I was just like, oh yeah, man, like that would suck. And like, you just fight through it and you did it. And like, that story made me proud of you too.
Well, I thank you for that. It's a learning experience, right? And it's not like I would never say get over it to anyone, but maybe myself, because like I've been there so many times where I have allowed it to kind of ruin the rest of my day. And, but I'll be 38 in a week or two, and I'm at a stage in my life where I've learned to recognize these things in myself and learned to recognize that they're not good for me. And so being able to recognize it and see that it could potentially sort of ruin the rest of my day, and then choosing to not allow that to happen, is great. And I think a lot of us can do that and have that capacity.
Well, yeah, and sometimes for me, like, the learning experience has been, instead of like, my shutdown isn't really shutting down, it's just suppressing, right? Push it down.
Sure.
Like, I got a bad feeling right now. I'm not prepared to confront it, deal with it, sort through it. I'm going to press it down and carry that garbage with me. It's going to get heavy. It's going to rot me on the inside, but I'm not ready to deal with it, right?
Sure, yeah.
So like over time, I've been like, okay, like a kung fu master, like, you must feel your feelings now, or some Yoda shit or something like that, like mantra to myself, where it's like, hey, don't carry this garbage with you. If you can take a second right now to just kind of feel bad, feel sad, feel mad, whatever,
right?
But like, let it run through it and figure out how to, go past it.
I think you're right, and I think like the sort of imagery of it sort of rotting inside you is a good one, because if we don't look at it, we don't address it, we don't sit with it and just kind of be curious about it, it is going to eventually rot. It is going to sort of affect our physical selves. It is going to affect, our emotional selves down the line, and we just don't know it yet. So yeah, sitting with it, looking at it, you and I know, Mike, that is a very good thing, but maybe listeners, it's a good reminder for you guys.
Well, yeah, and then sometimes I suck at it too, where I'm like, well, I'm just going to load up my schedule so I don't have to look at it and I don't have to sit with it, right?
Yeah.
So then you're just busy as hell, and then all of a sudden it just hits you like a ton of bricks because you're so full, your pain's starting to leak out everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's when I get like little mania, but also like this little bit of an edge where I'm not as like positive. I'm a little darker, a lot of invasive thoughts and a lot of just tense muscles and stuff like that. Or I get super weepy, where I'm like, oh my God, I can't control my emotions right now. What is this? I don't like feeling this way. And white knuckling through it has never been healthy for me. But sometimes you got to unlearn a lifetime of a habit. It takes a couple goes.
It takes a long time, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. I think there's just our sort of unique ways. Yeah. So, Mike, as you're sort of talking about your experience and sort of being diagnosed with bipolar at 31, like, can you tell me a little bit about your coping mechanism and your sort of mental health prior to that? What was it like? What was your childhood like? Give me some seminal moments.
I think early on, as early as I can remember, I could tell that I wasn't like unlike everybody else, and people thought I was kind of weird. And but like, it didn't bother me because I was kind of in my own head a lot of the time anyway. My dad wasn't like a toxic masculinity kind of dude. Wasn't like wasn't a, a malicious bone in his body. It still isn't. But he had a temper, and he didn't deal with his feelings well. And it was mostly like just, I think, self-hate that I've grown to be very intimate with, where it's like you lose your temper and then you shame yourself for losing your temper, and then you spin out and you just keep chasing your tail.
Sure.
And so my dad would have these like adult tantrums, and like freak out when there was like a fly that was annoying him, or doing a home improvement project of some sort and just getting frustrated as hell and blowing his top,
Yeah.
So, but like, I don't think that's like an unusual experience for a lot of people our age. I'm 36, so I'm just a couple years behind you. But, I think it's indicative of previous generations being so conditioned about what a male is supposed to be and what a female is supposed to be in these boxes and slots that were authored by the status quo, like, 200 years ago. It's like, let's evolve. Let's move the fuck on. And the last generation or two has done an amazing job. Like, you think about the modern gay rights movement, like starting 60s, right? Early 60s, something like that. They'd celebrate 50 years this year on like June 28th. That's the stuff. That's the opening it up to like, hey, we're all on this spectrum of identity and orientation, and we can all be whatever we want to be. There's so many different ways to identify as male or female or somewhere in between, if that's your thing, and that's how you feel, represented and home in your skin,
Yeah.
So I think it's all really cool, and it's really fun to be on this forefront of really fighting the power when it comes to the stigma created that silences individuals. But not only that, the stigma that silences communities and doesn't make resources visible, and the systemic institutional stigmas that exist, where like we need to even like kind of break that system down a little bit and talk about the deficiencies in order. Like, you can't fix a problem if you don't talk about it,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But back to childhood before I get on like a whole different tangent. My pops was super supportive. My mom was super supportive, and learning these types of coping skills, healthy or unhealthy, when I had too many emotions or overlapping thoughts or like mania when I didn't have language for it, I would just lose my shit and Hulk out. And that was acceptable for me because I was a boy who played sports and, lifted
What did that
weights.
look like? What did the hulking out look like?
Like punching a locker. Like I got suspended once for a fight, but that, like, I never usually took it out on anybody. It was usually myself, by hurting my hand, hitting something, or being loud and intimidating. I got kicked out of a basketball game when I was a freshman playing basketball. I was into sports because I needed to channel all this extra energy I had into something. Football was good for that because I could run into people and really, channel that rage that I was experiencing that I didn't really understand. But what really was my like most useful coping mechanism, however people perceive it to be as unhealthy, I smoked pot every day and would smoke during lunch. And in high school, I would smoke after school, would smoke before bed, because it slowed me down to like a speed that I felt was more digestible, if you will. Like,
Sure.
people weren't like, oh man, that guy is way too much. They were more like, oh, he's a chill dude. I like Mike, And I started to feel better about myself because when I was high, I didn't feel as self-conscious, and I know that's not everybody's experience. I know sometimes people get anxious when they smoke cannabis, and it's just our individual minds react differently to the introduction of a different stimulus, right?
Right.
But being physical, working out, playing football, playing basketball, and then figuring out how much I love music, and like that consuming all other things was really the saving grace. But I mean, from like 15 to 30, I self-medicated pretty heavily without knowing that was what I was doing. You know, just seemed like what everybody else was doing to get through their shitty days or deal with stuff. But it's just a Band-Aid, you know, and after a while you're like, holy moly.
And you were
I'm
just
carrying around a lot of garbage.
Yeah, like we all are. Yeah. All right, were you just self-medicating with cannabis at that point, or were you trying anything else?
I was drinking alcohol. I tried tripping on several psychedelics like shrooms and acid. I was just, you know, trying to figure out who I was, and we were bored most of the time in high school too, you know, and me and my friends would just get into shenanigans just like a lot of kids do. But I wasn't overtly reckless, but I don't know, I probably was. And that's all part of it too. And I would snap off on my parents, like for no reason sometimes, because I was hormonal and going through puberty, which is hard enough, like just even if you don't have anything else you're dealing with. But you know, that also happens to people of all ages, where you're so full and maxed out stress wise or just pressure inside you that you start to just, that's your coping skill, is that you take it out on somebody. And that's unhealthy too, for your relationships for one, but also just being that, like in that headspace, it is like, it's hurtful to your psyche.
Well, it's not sustainable.
It's a dark place to be, and it like takes a toll. Stress is a killer. Like there's a whole documentary I watched about it, National Geographic one that's really, really excellent. And I think it's just like Stress the Silent Killer or something like that. And I watched it, in fact, when I was in the hospital, when I had kind of reached a crisis stage right prior to being diagnosed, during that hospital stay and subsequent, you know, the last 5+ years have been a really, you know, important rebuilding in a deliberate way, where I got to keep some of the old stuff, like an ego-shattering experience, like going to the hospital for sure.
Yeah.
Or hitting that rock bottom or that crisis stage, or where your family and friends, well, you can't talk it away anymore. They're highly concerned and they're not sure if you're safe, right? So they do the right thing and they get you safe and let the pros figure out what's going on with the mind. And in that situation, you kind of have the pieces of your former self, and you can kind of decide, okay, this is going to be really hard, and I'm not really looking forward to the whole rebuilding process, but maybe this is an opportunity to throw out some of the old bullshit that isn't serving me and remember the things about myself that I'm really proud of. The pieces of me that, like, when I feel that way, that version of myself, I'm like, yeah, I feel good about myself. And then there's that other version of yourself just to be aware of. That's not going to go away. But it is also the version of myself I'm not super proud of when I feel that way, you know, or
sure.
I'm like, this version of me, it's back. It'll go away though. I know it'll go away, you know?
Yeah.
Ride it out, Mikey, you know?
Can you tell me a little bit about like I'm very curious about like what led to sort of your hospitalization in the last 5 years and this kind of more self-discovery period of your life. Like, were you being confronted by family members? Like, were you...
Sure, yeah, definitely.
You know, were there warning signs, things like that?
Well, I mean, like in high school, my mom was a health teacher for 30 years, so it wasn't like... And my dad, you know, he was a little rambunctious teen himself, and had 6 other siblings to distract mom and dad. So like he got into shenanigans as well. So he always knew what I was up to. He just like, you know, I couldn't get anything past him. My mom was a little more naive because I was her baby boy, you know. But at one point, due to all the rage and these like weird little, you know, freakouts I was having, she did take me to get drug tested. She thought I was doing steroids because I was like working out and playing sports and being a total nutcase. And, you know, after hulking out after that basketball game and like throwing a trash can and almost having the cops calling me, she was like, okay, you're going to go pee in a cup because I don't know what's going on with you. I think it's drugs. And I told her, I was like, I'm not doing steroids. I am smoking weed, and so yeah, I'll go. And that conversation could have gotten pushed a little further, but she didn't know any better. Nobody knew any better at the time to like actually address that. Hey, there might be some more stuff going on with Mike right now than just adolescent development, which can be challenging all on its own if if nothing extra is going on, right?
Yeah. Were you an only
so,
child?
No, I got a little sister, and she's 3 years younger than me. Lauren's amazing. She lives in New York and writes and does comedy and is tough as nails. But me and her have gone through a huge process together of understanding that, hey, this stuff runs in our family, and it's not our parents' fault or their parents' fault that we didn't have that part of the family health history conversation, because we can't responsibly say we know how many people have this or will have this or have had some sort of genetic based diagnosis. So just the fact though that me and my sister and my cousins and like aunts and uncles have had more open conversation, we're like, oh yeah, I take this for depression, or I've seen a therapist, or XYZ, or I count my steps, or just the neuroses that come up when you start to really talk about the real stuff with the people you love, and you're like, oh man, I don't feel quite so isolated in all my strange idiosyncratic features.
Yeah.
Maybe these are my superpowers. Maybe these are what makes me my true self, and my unique individuality is all wrapped up in those just things that make me a little bit of a weirdo, and having those conversations is really great. That positive self-talk could be like life-saving, where you're just like flipping the script on yourself and trying to, I don't know, just retrain whatever neuro pathways are attached to that negative thinking that many of us do constantly. So going to college, leaving home, trying to like establish independence was important in finding like trying on a bunch of hats and seeing like, well, this isn't really me. This isn't really me. Oh, this is me. That helped. But also being in college, partying was like almost expected, not even just like accepted. It's like, oh, he's in college. He's at university. Of course he's getting fucked up all the time. Right.
And
then you get out of college, you're like, okay, now I got to work. Stress levels increase like, tenfold, because then you got to think about paying your bills and keeping the roof over your head and all that, and paying your loans off from the awesome education you just got. So right about then, when I started teaching, actually, my first job wasn't teaching. My first job was at the Center for Behavioral Health, which began my like professional career in mental health instead of going right into education. My last semester of my undergrad, while I was doing my practicum and student teaching, I was also volunteering while I was doing a research paper on schizophrenia at the Center for Behavioral Health, which was right across from the Bloomington Hospital down in Bloomington, Indiana. I went to IU, go Hoosiers. So while I was doing that, right before I graduated, I just got super obsessed with personality disorders and residential treatment and comorbidity, or dual diagnosis as they call it now. And partial hospitalization groups, which are like the day groups for listeners at home. Like it's basically like school for people that are like having some pretty major disruptions in their life, where there's different groups like music therapy and even accounting classes and stuff like that. So arts and crafts.
That's so fascinating. At this point, you're fascinated with this stuff, but you're not even diagnosed yet, correct?
Not addressing my own shit.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit. Just I'd gotten into autopilot on like, yeah, I just take my medicine every day. I didn't think of it as my medicine, but I would get high every day, and I would manage like I had I had a decent amount of friends. I was pretty successful, and there wasn't any glaring red flags for people. Like high school, same deal. Got decent grades. The whole raging hormonal, teenager wasn't like super obvious to anybody either. It blended right in because my grades were okay and I had some friends, right? And I was involved in some activities. So the same kind of thing just continued. And then I guess being in the Center of Behavioral Health and being offered my first professional position, and having an office and a reception area and setting appointments and helping people was also like a weird coping skill. It even happened in my personal like romantic relationships in high school where I was like trying to fix and save other people because it made me feel better about myself.
Sure it does.
Meanwhile, underneath it all, like I'm just piling other people's, traumas and things on top of the stuff I'm not dealing with.
Right.
So, it was really interesting because if you fast forward to like after the hospitalization and working therapy, all this stuff came out from all these deeply tragic memories of working with adults that were living with schizophrenia or various shades of personality disorders, and really complicated, upsetting stuff, but really high highs and really low lows. Like a woman I worked with, died while I was working with her, and I cried for like 3 days about it. When it kind of came back up, it floated back up to the surface. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So going from working in that capacity professionally, where I was going over to the hospital sometimes to the, the locked ward where people would have to go if they were like on a 72-hour hold because there was concern about them being harmful to themselves or others,
That's the 5250, right?
Well, yeah, it's like, it's called a lot of things, it's just, the 72-hour hold is just like if somebody's like really worried about somebody and they have evidence that there is a threat, an imminent threat, like they can be hospitalized for up to 72 hours. For the listeners at home. And so basically, I saw this side of mental health care, but I saw it just like a lot of people see it as a way of accessing it when you're already in crisis, right? Like that's when you access professional mental health care. You wait till your life is so fucked up. That's when you go. That's like kind of what you learn as a community member. And it doesn't have to be that way, obviously, but and it shouldn't be that way. And the way that I've kind of devoted my professional life now, coming full circle back to mental health after 10 years teaching special ed, it's just all really serendipitous, and it all makes sense now a lot more than things have made in the past, So getting to that point was a series of just job stress. Like after I had left the Center for Behavioral Health, after just a wonderful professional experience of, working with people with a lot of different needs and needing to access a lot of different community resources. I got to understand what Social Security does and Medicaid and Medicare and the Housing Authority and Section 8. I learned all this stuff, right? But then I was like, I got to teach. I went to school. I got this certificate. I got to go teach, right? So I went to St. Louis. I taught in North City, St. Louis, which was really intense. I was one of the only white people that worked there, and it was a rough neighborhood. My parents were constantly calling me, checking up on me, because they were hearing about shootings and stuff like that.
What made you go there?
I was like 2 years at Center for Behavioral Health, and then in 2009 I went to St. Louis because a girl that I was romantically involved with was getting her master's in social work at St. Louis University. And I was like, hey, I'll go try St. Louis.
There you go.
Bloomington, I've been here a while. I'm going to go to another place, another home of the blues that I've always been intrigued by. So I went there, relationship blew up in my face. We weren't good for each other. And then my grandma died in the spring. So like St. Louis was just like the whiskey bottle year is what me and my Uncle Rob call it. Because it's just like bad thing after bad thing. Like relationship died, grandma died. Was like, oh my God, I'm crushed. I'm broken. So I moved back home to Chicago in 2010. So I've been back here now 9 years, and it's been really good to reconnect with family. And I started working in alternative high schools when I first got here, and that was really great professional experience as well, dealing with a whole bunch of different issues that young people were facing at that age, that stage of the game, where it's like, hey, this is your last chance to get a diploma from your home school. We got 5 therapists on staff. You need to complete some credits that you have missed due to whatever, being incarcerated, being in drug treatment, being truant. Who knew? Like there was like a lot of different situations. But
Yeah.
as a special education teacher, I've had pretty much every possible job you could experience, essentially, because I had to do restraints sometimes in that job when kids would be becoming violent, and you'd have to like safely immobilize them, and that was the worst.
Wow.
I hated that part of the job.
I bet.
That was traumatic for the kid. It was traumatic for the people doing the hold, and just that job was really intense, and I only was able to do that for like 2 years. And then I started working in CPS in the elementary schools. CPS, Chicago Public Schools, since you're out on the West Coast. Chicago Public Schools, special ed teacher, the demands are very, very high. You are a case manager. Well, at my building, I was a case manager for caseload of a ton of kids, right? And then you have your portion of the caseload and some teachers' assistants that can kind of help you divide and conquer and be the support that those kids needed. And I was never enough to go around, not one day was I able to be like, everybody got what they needed, so I would come home really like deflated, and I knew I was doing good, but I knew that I wasn't doing as much good as I wanted to. And became even more disenchanted when there was a parent in our community that died by suicide. And I was already volunteering with Hope for the Day, and beginning to understand what proactive prevention meant, what it's okay not to be okay meant, and starting to kind of think about what am I doing like with my stuff? Am I doing anything proactive? No, I'm not. So that started kind of a dialogue for myself. And when that chef died, that was a parent in our community, I got pretty upset, and I went and talked to the administrator, and I was like, I volunteer with this organization. The community needs to make a statement, and I think they are the people to come in and like show that support to our community. And I got shut down. Like they were just like, no, we can't talk about that. We can't disrespect the family. I'm like, this is wrong. This is the wrong move. You are disrespecting the family by not acknowledging that these 2 little girls lost their dad,
Sure.
And got really upset. And just from that point forward, I think leadership they loved me and my passion, but they were also like, this guy's a pain in the butt. Like he wants to change the whole system. And I'm like, yeah, I want to change the whole system. You asked me how we can do better. I'll tell you how I think we can do better. But if you're not going to work with me on that, I don't know how long I can stay the course here. So I eventually got to a point where I was so stressed out at the job. A relationship I had at the time was falling apart. Financially, I was doing okay, but I was getting a little stressed out because I lived alone, and wasn't splitting rent with anybody, wasn't splitting bills with anybody, and also the isolation that you're allowed or that you're able to create for yourself when you live alone. I think all of those factors combined to a point where the relationship ended. I broke up with the girl. I felt like I had broke her heart, and then really spiraled out, guilting myself about that. Didn't sleep for a week. And if you don't sleep for a couple days, you start to get a little goofy, right?
Yeah, you lose your mind a bit.
Yeah. So by day 3, day 4, I was hallucinating. I was having a lot of psychotic features. And I was pretty good at hiding it too, because I called out of work, took a mental health day, because it was during standardized testing, and I almost screwed that up majorly too, because I went off script and I was super manic. I wore a suit to school, which was really out of character for me, and then I didn't show up for the rest of the week.
So this was all before 31?
Yeah, this was
okay.
I was 31 at this point.
Okay.
So, that day I went to work on standardized testing day in a suit, talking very fast and talking a lot. People were concerned that I worked with professionally. Students I had were concerned probably about me, and it was just.
Did anyone say anything?
Not a proud moment for me. Yeah, my dear friend Aaliyah, she was a TA in the preschool classroom that I would go work with a couple kids in there that had IEPs, which just individualized education plan and special ed terms. She came up to my room and interrupted me and was like, "Mike, what is going on?" Like, just looked just terrified, utterly beside herself and super concerned, right? She's like, "You should really go home. Like, you should take a half day and go home." And I was like really shooken by that, because I was like, "Oh, I'm playing it cool," like in my head, right?
Yeah.
But I probably looked like a total cokehead,
Sure.
like all jacked up. But I was just high on my own mind. Not sleeping launches me into like the stratosphere as far as mania goes, and I don't need anything to sustain that energy, and it's a really dangerous place to be, because you're like redlining an engine of a car. It's going to explode, right?
Right.
So I went home. I went down to the office and I said, "Hey, I got something's going on. I'm not feeling well. I got to go home." Got out of there, talked to my boss the next morning, who was actually pretty understanding when I told her that, like, I haven't been sleeping. I'm starting to be concerned about my own mental health. I was very open with her. And she had my back and told me to take as many days as I needed, actually, which was...
That's amazing.
Yeah, really amazing. But then, like, instead of resting, like, I thought I had it under control and I could reel it back in. I was in this headspace of, like, doing a sleep study on myself, and it got really wormy and complicated, and I threw a huge party. And at the time that I threw the party, that's when, like, my close circle of friends were like, "Dude, are you okay? Like, do we have to take you to the hospital?" Like,
wow,
calling it like that, But
so you were being led by your mania at this point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I was in my own headspace. I was like really aware of my symptoms and stuff.
Yeah.
I was writing them down, but in that headspace too, I was also, my perception was all wacky, I'm sure. So, like, my version of it and my friends' versions of it are probably quite different, in that they were like, "Man, you were not good," because I was rambling, and I thought, I just thought that I'd cracked the code, the features of somebody getting very grandiose, and like a savior complex almost, like that you have figured out your mission or on the planet. All that stuff can be indicative of some problems, and it's always good to check in with your friends like that. And my friends were great about that, but they were also terrified. They didn't know what to do. They were scared that I would, like, resist, right?
Did any of them have names for it? Did they say, do you have...
Yeah, I mean, like, friends of mine were like, "Dude, you're losing your mind, you're sick." They didn't have clinical language for it. Nobody was like, "Hey, I think you're bipolar," or anything like that. But they're like, "Dude, it's okay to be sad about the breakup, but you gotta, like, cry or something, dude, like, because you're acting so strange, and you're not sleeping. That's pretty clear. So you need to sleep." Everybody's like, "You need to sleep." Yeah. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll sleep, wink, wink,"
Yeah, wow.
When everybody would leave, I would just stay up all night doing various wild strange things, really disorganizing my apartment, like almost deliberately, as my mind became more and more disorganized. So eventually the party, I knew my friends would like have these little sidebars where they'd be like, we're going out to smoke a cigarette. And I'd be like, sure. And I just knew that they were talking about, hey, where's the line? Like, where do we like stop this?
Yeah.
And,
when do we intervene?
Yeah. And I still get kind of like emotional thinking about putting them in that place, you know? Because it just sucked, like to know that I like made people so concerned, you know?
You feel guilt? You feel guilt about that?
Of course, but like I know that doesn't do me any good to like focus on that guilt, you know?
Yeah, they love you, man. They just care about you and wanted the best for you.
Yeah, and they did the right thing, the hard thing,
Yeah.
and then I've had to do that for other people in my life. So I guess that's another reason that it makes me emotional, is because like it makes me think about like all of these times and like how intense and scary those moments could be, and especially if you don't have any education, like you have like the utter absence of mental health education in the school system, and families don't feel comfortable talking about it amongst themselves. So my friends were like, just where do we make the call here? This party's pretty fun. Everybody seems to be enjoying themselves, but
they didn't have the tools themselves.
Right. Exactly. Right. So the next morning, my cousin came back over because he woke up with like a bad feeling. My parents started blowing up my phone. I'd been posting on social media like super erratic, like a post a minute kind of thing. So the next morning, everybody's like alarms were going off, and my cousin showed up, and I said, "Hey, can you take me to my parents?" And he like, you could see him just like relax for the first time in like 72 hours because he was so worried about me, and he thought he was going to have to like wrestle me to the hospital or something, or to my parents. And here I was just like, okay, I don't got this, man. I thought I could reel it back in, but I cannot, and I need help. So can you take me and my folks? And he did. And it was one of those situations where my parents were in full panic mode, because a week ago their son was fine, you know, and now they're looking at this like crazy person in their eyes, like, who is this? This isn't our son. Like, because I showed up on their doorstep like some crazy Dr. Seuss Willy Wonka shit, just like ready to like tell them about everything I had discovered, you know, in this trip into my mind. And they were like, "What is going on, Chris? Can you tell us like what's happened the last week? What's he on? Like, is he on drugs?" And
so they had no clue. They just were confused.
Yeah, they were like, "This is wrong, and I'm scared."
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Mom and Dad, we can fix this. We can monitor him and encourage him to sleep, and maybe he'll be okay in a couple days." And they tried, but it became pretty evident pretty quickly that they were out of their pay grade, so to speak. And they're like, we can't fix this. And that was a really hard call for them to make. And, you know, the next morning, the way they talked to me about, "Hey, we're going to be taking you to the emergency room," was really sweet, you know, because they didn't know like what the fuck they were doing. And they were just as scared as I was to go to the hospital.
Scared for their son. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't want to like put them through all that, but at the time I was like, "Yeah, I'll go." And I was very cooperative. I was like an infant at that point. I had regressed to like, just want to make Mom and Dad happy again.
Wow.
Because in the night, my dad had kind of come up to my room, and I like was kind of in a weird semi-conscious daze, writing all over the wall in my bedroom with a blue Sharpie, and just ruined the wall, you know. Had to fix that later. But just like a brain dump, all sorts of stream of consciousness, symbols, just strange shit like you would see in a movie. And my dad kind of flipped out. He was like, "What the fuck is going on? What is wrong with you?" You know? And I think when he said, "What is wrong with you?" Like he wasn't trying to, trigger me or anything, but like it was just the spark that kind of made me. I went full meltdown, and I took the marker and I screamed, "I have the blues," and I like slashed at my wrists with a marker. And my dad was like, "Jesus fucking Christ! Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really worried." So he slept with me that night. He just like,
Wow.
he laid down and stayed in bed with me and was like, "We're gonna go in the morning. I just want to make sure you're safe. I'm sorry." Like, I think he thought like he had fucked me up in some way. My dad does that. He's like, all the psychotic shit, that's me. And I'm sorry. It's all my fault,
That's heartbreaking.
So, yeah, but it's like,
But what a beautiful gesture by him.
yeah. I mean, he's the man. My mom and dad, like a lot of people get a shitty deal with their family sometimes, but I can say that I've got like the greatest family. So
I'm so
pretty
glad
lucky.
to hear that.
Yeah.
So you go to the hospital, and what sort of transpires the next couple of days?
So basically, it was surreal. Like, I was very cooperative. I was working the groups. I was consciously aware of the fact that I had been on the other side of the glass, so to speak, in this situation, and that I needed to get better. But I was really resistant to taking any sort of medication, and I was a patient advocate back in the day too. So like, here I was being a pain in the ass to the people working, trying to help me. Not a super pain in the ass, just being like asking all these questions about side effects of the medication and putting them on blast about patient rights. And, I'm like, I know what's going on. I know that my cortisol, my serotonin and my oxytocin, and my dopamine, they're all just jacked up, and I need to sleep and I need to get back to my baseline. And they'd be like, why is this guy using clinical language? Like, who is this dude? So I was a peculiar, blend of somebody that knew about mental health professionally from writing like clinical documentation. You had to like write notes when you were a case manager at, because you submitted to insurance. But
Yeah.
that's as I digress. But essentially, they didn't really know what to think of me, but they were like, "This guy's not that sick. We need to get him. We need to get him out of here so we can get a bed open for somebody that is floridly psychotic." But that was just because I was able to like internalize a lot of the mania at that point, because I knew I had to play the game to get out, right?
But were you
So
taking medication?
I refused the first couple days, and then my dad called me and he was like, "Dude, you got to play ball. You got to like take something. Can you like agree to take the smallest dosage that?" Because it's not a perfect system, the healthcare system. They're trying to do their best.
It's far from perfect, but
super fucked up.
Yeah.
And a billing lady came and talked to me while I was still in the hospital, asking me if I had a credit card to make a payment. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm trying to get better right now. Like, who the fuck are you?" Because I had hidden all my IDs and credit cards and stuff, like as part of, I don't know. That's a whole other story. But
you
I
hid
didn't
them.
have
You said you hid them.
Yeah, I didn't have an ID or anything when they took me to the emergency room, and it was kind of hilarious to watch everybody scramble. They're like, "This guy doesn't have an ID. How can we prove he's who they say he is?" And I was just like laughing about it. So in my head, it was like a trick to play on the world, I guess. I don't know. That's a whole other feature. So my eventually was like, I will take this. It's basically a generic. I was like, I need the generic though. It's just like, I didn't want the cost to be
I don't blame
to
you.
the healthcare system or to myself, right? So I was like very adamant that they gave me the generic of Depakote, and I took the smallest dose, and it knocked me down in my baseline pretty quick. And I soon felt more depressed than I'd ever felt in my life. Like stuck in a hole, but not like specific sadness, right? Total absence, listless. Hours would pass. I'd be sitting, staring at the fucking wall in my apartment, or at my parents' house. Because I had to go live with them for a little bit until they felt comfortable letting me go back to living alone in my apartment. So I had I had to prove to some people that I wasn't like unpredictable and unstable and stuff like that. Which that experience was the most isolating of everything. Maybe it was a combination of being on this mood stabilizer, this generic version of Depakote, and it knocking me down so quickly. But every mania, I think, has somewhat of a counter, right? So if you're like super manic, you'll probably be super depressed, high, low.
Yeah.
But I'll never know exactly how that all played. It's just life, because my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer like right around the same time, and it's just like, come on, I can't catch a break. So
I'm sorry.
no, it was all good. It was just like, I think it was part of it. And then it wouldn't be, so that was in March, right? So they let me out on Pi Day, March 14th.
Yeah.
And I had all these fixations on numbers and stuff like that. So as I'm signing my discharge paperwork and they're giving me my shit back and my dad's picking me up, I just pointed at the doctor, or the staff in charge, and I was like, very funny, Pi Day, very funny. Can I have that? Can I have that piece of the calendar? Because they have one of those tear off calendar pieces. They're like, no.
So they're like, all right, why are we letting this guy out?
Yeah, essentially they were just like, he's got parents. They can go take care of this guy, and he's pretty harmless. He's just obviously not on the same level as all of us. And for a while I still felt like the positive power of my mania, but just I kept slipping, and then all of a sudden found myself in like this big dark hole by the end of the summer. And it would take until like Halloween for me to like clean my house and start to feel good about myself again, and go out and try and meet people. And then I basically, I don't know, I could see again or something like that. I know it sounds corny as hell, but
no, not at all. But how'd you get there? I'm curious, are you still just taking the generic mood stabilizer? Or are you taking anything for the depression?
I couldn't take that. I could not take that.
Okay.
That shit, as soon as I was like more depressed than I'd ever felt in my life, I didn't care if it was the medicine or the situation. I was like, I'm not taking this medicine. This is exactly why I was like resistant to starting it in the first place. Talked to my doctor. He was not helpful. I was like, Illinois got like a medical cannabis program. I know what CBD is. Can you learn about that? Potentially prescribe it to me so I can use, weed as my medicine, but not like be high all the time, because that's the benefit of CBD, in my opinion. And this guy, I came back the next appointment. I asked him to learn about it and maybe help me out. He didn't do shit. So I was like, all right, see you later. And at this point, it was summertime. I was just kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do come next school year and be back working full time and stuff. Because I took a short-term disability, leave of absence from the job. And so, it was me kind of just slipping back into, hey, I'm going to use cannabis because it's worked for me, and I'm going to be more aware of that. And so I would take little sips, from a little one hitter, and just try and not be super high all the time, but also not feel like I was feeling, because people always try drastic things to feel better or feel nothing at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a survival skill. So I was like, I know this is a plant, and I know people will call me a pothead or a hippie or whatever, but this is working for me. I'm going to do this. And that helped for a while, but really the thing that helped the most was going to therapy every week for 6 months and having a therapist that I could talk to. And he kind of felt like a grandfather figure to me. His name was Lou, and he's just an older gentleman that had Jewish Italian background, and I don't know, man. He just seemed wise, and I'd never been in therapy before, so like just the the whole learning what therapy is and then utilizing it to your benefit, like making it work for you, and being very conscious of the fact that maybe a therapist you're seeing it doesn't work, isn't a fit for you, so
Sure.
you can like shop around, as frustrating as that may be. And I haven't been in therapy for a while, so I recently took me a really long time to follow through, but next week I've got an appointment with a new person, so that
Awesome.
my insurance covers for the
Good for
time
you.
being. So
What
yeah,
do you learn
steps in the
about
right direction.
yourself with Lou, like during that first therapy experience?
I was able to unpack all this stuff from childhood that was bugging me about like just the anger and rage that I had kind of learned, but also fully embraced as like a part of me that I wasn't proud of, and like learning to improve myself, and that's an option. Like people don't talk about explicitly working on yourself, and improving these things that you're like not proud of that you do, be it biting your nails. Like I still bite my nails, but whatever, it's not that big of a deal. It's just like these habits, even thinking habits, can be worked on. You might not get all the way better at it, but like it takes discipline, and therefore in therapy, learning what bipolar is, first of all, for some people helped, like to hear people that live with bipolar and understand some of the things that I knew from my experience that are like signatures, like pretty textbook signatures of things like over impulsive spending, and like buying people stuff, and like disorganized thinking, and having 20 projects that you want to do all at once, and different things, breaking that stuff down and being like, oh, okay, well, some of this stuff, some of my extra energy I can channel into my music, I can channel into my work, I can utilize this extra energy, but I need to be really smart about my sleep schedule. I need to really be vigilant about not cutting corners and burning the candle at both ends, so that I'm getting 4 hours of sleep a night. Because that a former version of Mike, sleep wasn't that much of a priority, and sleep really is just a huge impact for most people, but especially me. So
Oh yeah, it's huge.
I think also not living alone was a good thing. I got a roommate who was also going through some shit at the time. Moved from Detroit. We played music together. Moved to Chicago to try and like figure out what's next for him, because he had just gotten divorced and kept running into his ex-wife and his in the town he was living in. And he's like, God damn it. So he came and lived with me in the spare bedroom. I was splitting rent with somebody. I had a friend that was there to check on me and make sure I wasn't writing on the walls and staying up all night doing weird shit. I eventually, like the whole I could see again. There was this lady I would see every day when I was leaving work, because she'd be getting there to do after school. She worked for the YMCA. Her name's Erin Dunbar. I'd see her every day when I'd be leaving work. The bell would be ringing. She'd be getting there. And I'd seen her like all school year, but it wasn't until like I kind of come out of my hole that I saw her like for real and was like, holy shit, who's that? And kept asking my friend Aaliyah, who had come up that fateful day, to be like, go home. Like, you're going to lose your job if you stay here. Yeah, she worked for the Y too. She was a site coordinator, supervisor, and so she was kind of Erin's friend and boss, and kind of planted the seed. And we eventually decided to move in together. Now we got like a little dog. Like, just to have these things that I really care about being there and showing up for, and being a good partner, and being a good dog dad and all that. I don't know, that all helps. And she also, talks to me about mental health and her own struggles really openly when she can articulate it, because sometimes it's hard,
Yeah.
as you referred to at the beginning, like she can shut down pretty majorly, and she doesn't want to, it's just like she's trying her best, she's fighting her battle, and most people are fighting a battle we don't know about, right? And being able to talk to her and for her to understand some of the things that I go through, and to also check me when I'm doing too much, yeah, all those things factor into my treatment plan. I don't take medication, but I'm not against it. I think medication is hugely supportive to a lot of my friends and family, and the things that they face daily. And I think of them as vitamins and minerals. If that works for you, awesome. And therapy works for a lot of people, and some people, it kind of gets them spinning out when they didn't spin out before. So I just figure, if it works for you, you try the hat on, you like it, wear that hat when you need it,
Yeah, it's such an important lesson. We can't say it enough. The fact that it is all very unique, and not one sort of approach to healing and recovery is right for another person. It could be right for me, it could be not the right choice for you. And I think there's so much in the mental health world, the sort of wellness space, like all these spaces that there's a oversimplification of things, and I think I'd like to sort of turn away from that and remind people that it is a bit messy, but there are so many different options, and to kind of maybe the word of the day, there's so much hope, right? There are like various facets and glimpses of hope out there in the world
So
when
many
it comes to mental health.
There's flotation therapy, there's equine therapy, there's cannabis informed therapy, there's ketamine treatment for medication resistant depression. There's so many things out there for people to try, and that is so much hope, and so much of what Hope for the Day does is raising the visibility of those resources and being like, check this out, this is super helpful to me, and I don't know if you even know about it, so maybe you should. And if it works for you, great. If you pick it up and you want to put it in your toolbox, awesome. If you want to tell a friend about it, even better. Hey, if it didn't work for you, that's cool. Glad you tried it. Whatever, like a mixture of those things. And the fact that there's so many clinical supports, but there's also a vast menu of non-clinical supports too. Like, I don't like it when people say, hey, you should try yoga or essential oils, and they're just like oversimplifying things. I do love it when people are like, hey, yoga kind of helps me, essential oils kind of helps me, do you want to try it with me sometime and see what
I love
works
that
for you?
Yeah, that's great.
I love that, inviting somebody to be part of like your self-care, to see if they like it for themselves.
Yeah, that's great.
That's how you spread this positive ripple effect, instead of some tragic negative sadness. And like I think that's how you turn the tide, is like sharing very openly about what works for you, but not being like, it'll work for you for sure.
Well, and it's in that it's it's communal, right? It's about connecting with others and bringing them into your world. And I think we, as people in recovery, as people who have mental health struggles, as people who just exist in this world, like we do need that. We do need each other.
Yeah, we do. That's what the social enterprise of Hope Coffee Bar is all about too. Is like having a physical space for people to come, be part of the Hope for the Day mission, and have a place to talk about their grief. Maybe if they lost somebody to suicide and nobody in their life allows them to talk about that little bit, because you can't utter the word suicide. Things like that are super important. Like, we need other people. We need to share our experiences. We need to start the conversation, to fight the darkness, to make people feel less isolated and alone, because
Yeah.
your mind is so powerful and so fragile. You can think yourself sick. You could be in a room full of people and convince yourself that you're all alone. I mean, it's just wild, and it's really cool that a show like yours exists, like that this You Are Beautiful gallery exists, solely to spread that story and spread that message, to like say, hey, you're enough, you matter, you're pretty cool. I don't even know you, and you're cool. Like, you're gonna be all right, I hope. If you're not, come on into these doors. Like, we could talk. I'll hug you.
Yeah.
Whatever. If you're a hugger. So it's a lot of things that continue to make me want to maintain stability, and also forgive myself when I have hiccups, or I take a couple steps back, because I know that my homies, my community, my friends, my family, my partner, they'll help like kind of pull me back to where I need to be.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you at the nonprofit Hope for the Day, you lead education. Is that right?
Correct. There is the founder and CEO, Johnny Boucher, who I met when I was teaching at a therapeutic day school. He came to career day, and my cousin was also there on career day, and we all met and just had this amazing connection immediately. And me and my cousin Chris started volunteering for him like shortly thereafter. But Carl Evans, he's the director of programming and operations. He's kind of like my mentor. He's the author of the proactive prevention theory and philosophy that is kind of the core of all the Hope for the Day education. And he really pushed for me to have a position in Hope for the Day. Johnny wanted me to come work for him too. Like, he kept being like, Mike, what's it going to take to make you leave Chicago Public Schools? And I was like, well, I got to eat. So eventually Carl and him had just been like really shouting my name to the board. And so we got a grant, and they were able to like offer me an opportunity in which, at a perfect time too, because I was just like so sick of banging my head against the wall in public schools as like a cog in the wheel, not being able to facilitate the type of change I wanted to. Because I would always be told, like, oh, you're passionate, why don't you join the union? And I'm like, nah, well, I'm in the union, but that's not what I'm talking about. Like, the union is great and all, but I have some issues with the whole using kids as pawns in this weird political game. Mm-hmm. These conversations are ridiculous that go on at a policy level when it comes to education, and it makes me want to scream. So I was just like, yeah, okay, let's try a different angle. Let's see if I can have some impact on the system as an outsider. And so far, so good, man. 2.5 years in, and I've had some really productive conversations with people that are very high up in the city, in Chicago Public Schools. It's amazing. I try to mitigate my expectations when I first came over. Be like, hey, Mike, don't have any ridiculous, unrealistic, unattainable goals. You can influence social policy, and that's pretty cool. So that's your goal. And now I'm like sitting here, like thinking for my next year of goals, I could quite realistically include institutional policy shifts in some of the things that I'm working towards, So that feels good. That just makes me so like jazzed up to know that
That's fantastic.
This giant risk, right? From going from having the benefits package and the salary and the summers off to do something that really fulfills me quite a bit more. I'm like happier. I don't make as much money, but it's worth its weight in gold. The fulfillment it brings to me every day, and it's always different, because being education lead at Hope for the Day meant really studying Carl doing the community workshops, the community education, which champions lived experience, but breaks down the history and historical context of stigma, what it does to create silence in our communities and individuals, in the institutions, And then like establishing a new baseline of language to use when talking about mental health, so that we're not reinforcing stigmas, that we are being inclusive, and we're not just focusing on it at-risk populations. Do you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
why we're missing people. That's why people die by suicide, and there's individuals in their life that are like, wait, what? No, like how? No, they were rich, they were successful. You know, people try to like make sense of it. And it's like, no, this is senseless. Somebody lost their battle, okay, and you can't tie it up in a nice little package, but we can take this negative and turn it into a positive by talking, by piercing the veil of silence, by really shattering stigma so that people don't feel this shame and asking for help, like, and the shame of not being okay. So we just had that like little bit of how to be supportive in there at the end so that people know how to take the conversation forward in their sphere of influence so they can at least impact their own life for themselves. Like, respect the dignity of the individual for yourself. When you talk yourself out of your thing not being significant or intensive enough to ask for help, you're gaslighting yourself. You're psychologically manipulating yourself, placing a value on your pain and experience rather than acknowledging, hey, I'm hurt. I can probably take care of this right now, or I can let it get way worse. I can let this cough and sniffles get to pneumonia. But no, I want to create a conversation where people respond to these earlier signs and symptoms of mental health challenges. Like, it doesn't matter if you're going to develop a diagnosis or not. I want people to take better care of themselves so they can take better care of their people, and less people will die. Like, we can prevent suicide together if we have a proactive conversation about prevention instead of just responding and reacting to another loss like we kind of have done traditionally.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between Hope for the Day and the community education that we do. And then as the education lead, I've been able to kind of take it further. Like, we're enhancing our education. We have Things We Don't Say, which is our introductory proactive prevention course. It's all about peer-to-peer proactive suicide prevention and mental health education. And that's about an hour long. And then there's a 4-hour workshop that we do once a month in the community across from Sip of Hope Coffee Bar. So that's pretty cool. There's always one free opportunity a month, at least, for people to come check it out and really take a deeper dive into how they can impact their own lives and the lives of the people they care about with proactive prevention. And then essentially I'm now enhancing the curriculum. The general community workshops are starting to dial into some more specialized groups to like supplement the community workshop to address some contributing factors that are unique to certain at-risk populations. We have support staff by Hope for the Day, which is focused on empowering industry professionals that work in food and beverage, hospitality world, bars, restaurants, breweries, things like that, because they do end up interfacing with a lot of the public. And
Sure, yeah.
a lot of the public, when they're having a drink, they might say some stuff that might be an indicator that they need some help, right? So teaching people to, if they're going to already work as like, unofficial therapists while they're tending bar, you might as well give them some tools so that they can be impactful with the guests that they're serving. But by and large, a lot of people working in that industry, there's a lot of toxic parts of that industry culture, a lot of higher risk for substance use or even sexual assault while under the influence, and like all these other things. Plus, a lot of people that work in that industry don't have insurance. So the access conversation is completely different as far as clinical supports are concerned. So support staff's empowering people that work in that industry and really love that industry and really want to, help improve the culture in that industry. So taking bartenders and front of house, back of house people, teaching them how to do the community workshop, and then dialing into some specific unique factors that's facing that population. And we hope to do that with other variants on the curriculum in the coming year. Do one for the veteran and active duty military community and their spouses and families, so that we can address the fact that that's also a pretty big at-risk population for suicide. So
yeah, that's amazing.
it's really cool. It makes me so excited and inspired, and I learn so much listening to other people to fill in my own perceptual blind spots, like bringing them to the table to help me make these education variants the right way, not like right away. Just being considerate of the fact that I'm not someone that can identify as gay, lesbian, fluid, any of those things. Trans. I'm white, cisgendered male. I can't be claimed to be an expert on somebody that navigates the world as a person of color either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pardon me. So I really want to get peer-to-peer proactive suicide prevention, which we shorten to Peervention. We list all of our free education opportunities at peervention.org. All those Peervention programs I want to be taught by true peers from those communities. So like when we do a Spanish training, it'll be a Spanish speaker engaging with that population. When we do education at a restaurant, I want to have somebody from that industry engaging. Peer-to-peer is so much more genuine and impactful that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds amazing. I really, I really love the organization, Hope for the Day. I remember going to Chicago, I guess I was there last year, and popping into Sip of Hope, and
thanks for coming.
Being in awe of this sort of thing that exists, and this, the message that I've been sort of trying to share with the world for years, is finally kind of, starting to resonate with people, and it's just it's so lovely.
Yeah, it's great, and I'm so glad that you're a part of it too, man, and shouting us out and taking that message just a little bit further. Like, we all have the potential that we kind of underestimate the power of spreading these simple, positive messages to kind of purify that mixture, that saturated social media feed that every guy has, that has like a lot of just garbage a lot of times in there. Like the cesspool part of the internet, it doesn't have to be that way. If we do our job putting bits of positivity into the mixture, we can maybe like overwhelm all the nasty stuff, the yuckies.
Gotta lead with our heart, man. We gotta embrace empathy and vulnerability, and really connecting, and recognize that we're not alone, and that we need each other, and that we're in this together, and we should make the world a better place.
Yeah, because it's too easy to demonize or vilify social media or technology, or heavy metal music, or violent shows or video games. Like that's too easy. Those things aren't going away. Can they be used for good? Hell yes, they can. But social media just came on like a wildfire, and no one ever stopped to be like, hey, we should probably have some conversations about explicit best practices for using these things that are such a part of our lives now, especially with young kids, like who are, here's your iPad, good luck with life.
Sure.
When you're born, and
you're talking like a real old man now, Mike.
I guess, but like technology and stuff can be amazing. Like you can have an anxiety toolkit in your phone, like that you can access anytime, like if that works for you. You can have mood trackers on like these different apps that people are developing for specifically for mental health supports and stuff like that, and wellness and mindfulness and all the other words people use to talk around mental health. That's all it is like they're like just trying to sidestep and Walter Payton around that shit, but really it all comes down to health. One day, wouldn't it be great known if we could just talk about health instead
it's all
of
one and the
health,
same. Yeah.
Mental health, trying to connect the dots, like it's health. It's health, people.
It's health. Yeah. No, that's my goal for the world. I think we'll get there.
Yeah, man.
I have hope.
With fine people like you out there, we're all moving this gigantic boulder together, little by little. Incremental change is is how it happens. Like you can get discouraged that the boulder didn't move far enough this year, but hey, did it move? Hell yeah, it did.
The Feely Sisyphus.
The Feely Sisyphus. Oh man, I learned that word from Andrew Bird.
I love Andrew
From
Bird.
an Andrew Bird record. Yeah, he's pretty fantastic.
I remember seeing him down in maybe La Jolla or Escondido or something. Gosh, 20 years
Sounds
ago.
Like paradise. Sounds like a paradise.
No, not 20 years ago. It was maybe 15 years ago. It was like a tiny little coffee shop, and there was maybe 20 people there. It was great.
Sisyphus. Yeah, that dude loves some heady words.
He does.
In his lyrics. I get a kick out of it. Yeah, he played at the Green Mill here in Chicago, like within the last 6 months, I want to say. And Erin Dunbar, my fiance, she surprised me with tickets. And
amazing!
It was outrageous because for those of you at home listening, the Green Mill is a really famous Chicago jazz lounge up in the Uptown neighborhood. It's been there forever. I think it was even owned and operated by Capone or something like that. So yeah, Andrew Bird did a small show there where I was maybe 15 feet away from him, and his band was fantastic as one would expect. Man, talk about a whistling champ. That guy is the most virtuosic whistler I've
It's
ever
amazing. I don't understand how
seen.
he does it. He really is a genius.
You ever try to whistle on a microphone?
No, I haven't whistled on this podcast before, but
yeah, I mean, whistling, I'm a novice at best, but every time it comes to whistling on a microphone, it's like I can't do it. It's like it's some weird force field.
A block. Well, let's start sort of winding down here.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah, before we kind of share with listeners where they can kind of learn more about yourself and hope for the day, let's talk about empathy heroes. This is the part of the show where my guest and I each just name someone in our lives who is just a great empathetic person. Could be even a character from a book or a movie or a quote we like. I will go first, Mike, just to give you a moment to think about it. My empathy hero this week is Lisa Oliveira, who's a therapist.
Oh, yeah. I follow her on Instagram, bro.
Yeah, so I just had her on.
Her graphics are so awesome.
Her episode, actually, as we're recording this, is going to be tomorrow. But
Cool.
by the time this episode's out, the episode with Lisa is out, and you should definitely go listen to it, listeners. But she's just her story is amazing. She was abandoned as 2 days old by her birth parents and later adopted. And, we talked about identity and her sort of philosophy when it comes to therapy. And she's just so personal, and she's so very much about the human. And something she said in our conversation was simply, it's okay to be human, which I just love because it's overwhelming living, right? It's like we can, as humans, get so caught up in the overwhelm of just our work lives, the stress of it, relationships, friendships, am I falling behind on social media? All these cultural pulls and societal pressures that we have. And it's for me, when I hear it's okay to be human, it reminds me just it's okay to be me. It's okay to be you. It's okay to not be okay, right? It's just okay. You are enough. There's no end goal. We're not trying to win anything. It's just okay to be human. So my empathy hero is Lisa Oliveira for that reminder.
Woo, Lisa! I sometimes will just be stuck in the scroll, right, and then I'll just get punched right in the heart by Lisa's wonderfully stylized little cards that have just such helpful reminders, and the way that they're just super clean and simple, but also have this really nice kind of design aspect to them. I'm always resharing her stuff on my stories and stuff like that.
Nice.
Good one. I thought of 50 But I'll try and narrow it down here. Okay. I just had a really wonderful Google Hangouts session earlier this week with a musician by the name of Davey Muse from a band called Vanna. He does a lot of education and outreach, and has kind of always been a supporter of Hope for the Day. But this coming school year, he's going to go talk to a lot of kids and bring a lot of Hope for the Day resources along with his message. He just reminds everybody that there's plenty of rock stars in the world, but there's not enough superheroes, and he wants everybody to be super. And then so that made me think of the Be Super initiative. This lady Crystal does this amazing stuff with comic books and sci-fi characters to start conversations about social justice, social injustice and justice. Just ways to kind of move that ball forward using really amazing artwork and stuff like that. And I got to give a shout out to Matthew Hoffman, the artist responsible for the You Are Beautiful sticker and the closing reception of the It's Okay exhibition he did for Hope for the Day, and all the collaboration that he's done. Since you visited SIP, you've seen the It's Okay Not to Be Okay in cursive script on the wall. It's like, I don't know, 7-8 feet long. That's Matthew's piece too, that he donated to the founding, the big grand opening. He put his art in our shop. So him and his team are amazing. Check them out. You Are Beautiful headquarters in Chicago is a great place to stop if you're visiting too. So
lovely.
I could keep going, but that's where I'll stop for now.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, and I'll make sure to link those individuals in the show notes, listeners. Mike, where can people learn more about Hope for the Day and connect with you?
So Hope for the Day's website is just the acronym hftd.org. And if you typed in hopefortheday.org, it'd take you there. But, there's this thing called Google too. You just put Hope for the Day in there. It should pop right up. First listing, click on that. All sorts of good stuff over at the website. We're on all the social media too, just at Hope for the Day, one word. Sip of Hope is also on social media. You can find Sip of Hope Coffee Bar on all those platforms. It's our collaboration with Dark Matter Coffee here in Chicago. It wouldn't be possible without them agreeing to put suicide prevention information on a bag of coffee several years ago. That started this wild whirlwind that is the Sip of Hope story. So, and if you wanted to check out my individual social media, it's just Mike Vinopal. Vinopal is easier to remember if you think of Vinopal, like a wine friend. And I play a bunch of music too, so you can follow or listen on whatever streaming platform you like to. Local Motive band, that's 2 words. It's not one word like a locomotive. It's 2 words. Local Motive. You can look up Local Motive Chicago, Local Motive Band, anything of that nature will get you there, and put it in yours. It's some good, feel-good music with positive messages and kind of rhythm and blues spirit to it, with horns and a female vocalist, and me doing my blues thing, singing from my toes. So,
excellent.
And if you want to read more about my story leading to the crisis stage, you can go to literateape.com. Literate Ape is a digital, it's like a literary zine, but in a digital space. A lot of really great writers contribute, and I did a serial, like 23 chapters long form fiction based on my experience, called Noble X, which is short for the Noble Experiment. And you can read that story and like really, really dig in little digestible chunks that are 1,000 words or less. So I think that about covers it.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. And listeners, I'll make sure to link all that in the show notes for this episode. Mike, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your story. And it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, you made my day as well. So I hope you had a nice little pickup as well. And the rest of the day is great as well.
Thank you. And to you listeners, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's you, me, empathy.